Alright, so I'm trying to replace the CV boots on this thing because it has 3 that are torn. And just take the CV axles out in order to do that. And the problem is, you got to take this nut off the end in order to get that axle out. I cannot get that thing off. If we try to impact, I put a slide breaker on it with about a 3-foot extension pipe on the end of the handle. Cannot get it loose. So I'm going to say forget that. I just took the entire yoke assembly, or whatever you call it, from the A-arms. And I'm just going to leave the axle hooked up, and I'm just going to replace the boot while it's still in place. Should work, should be fine. I'm sick of messing with that nut. I've wasted more time on that than the actual time to replace the boots. So I'm going to go ahead and get these boots done. I'm not going to explain this real well. There's a really good video or two out there if you just search it. And so I just recommend if you're doing this, just search those videos. He gives a great explanation. They're a shop that specifically, like their whole channel is just Arctic Cat repair and maintenance. So they obviously know a lot more about this than I do. So I highly recommend just checking YouTube and finding them if you're doing this yourself and want more direction. Just jacking another tire off the ground so that way I can rotate this. And I gotta use a screwdriver and kind of pound this apart. Okay, I'll try to wipe some of the grease out of that. The CVG joint looks good. It doesn't look like it got ran alone. It doesn't look like it was a ran alone time with a bad boot or anything, so that's good. I hate the boots on these CV joints on these ATVs because the rubber just doesn't hold up to the abuse of what supposedly you're supposed to do with these. If you're doing a bunch of off-road or trail riding, it just tears them to pieces. And they never put a good guard around them. But I guess if they did, then you wouldn't be always buying parts from them. And from what the video I watched, I should be able to just yank this out. We'll find out. Alright. Okay, I went and looked at a little more, and even though they said that this is, this has a circlet in here that holds it together. Even though the bigger models are supposed to just pull apart. So I don't know, this must be a slightly different model or something. So if you do look this up yourself, kind of just check. Yeah, see there it is, just right here on the inside. So it's easy to find once you know it's there. Because I beat on this lightly on the vise with a hammer, and then I didn't get too aggressive because it wasn't coming. I figured something had to be wrong. There we go. I'll make sure I clean all that out good in case there's any dirt in there. Not what you're supposed to do. Now we'll see if we can drive that off. want to take it to a vise with the bigger hammer. No sense in beating on it forever with that. Alright, got that off. Just took a couple hits with the hammer once I had it in the vise. It didn't take much at all. You didn't have to hit it real hard or anything, but you're not going to want to because you don't want to damage that. New boot, comes with grease, rings, even comes with a replacement snap ring. So, I mean, can't beat that. Slide that down, make sure this goes back on the same way. Set that on there. Using a dead blow nylon hammer, you can't beat these for this kind of stuff. No chance of damaging anything. They have a way harder hit than the rubber. Rubber mallets have such limited use, they just bounce off everything. They don't give you an actual solid hit. Since these are lead loaded, they really hit well. Won't use that. That's the old E-ring or snap ring. So. Go ahead and use the new one they gave me. Make sure I get on it well so I don't shoot it across the property. Looks like I still didn't get this a little further on. Yeah, there we go. Just want to drive that on far enough, make sure the snap ring gets in there all the way. There you go. You can easily see when it's in there far enough. You don't want your CV joint to come apart on you. I'm going to get a fresh paper towel to clean that all out. You really want to make sure you don't have any dirt in there. Got any dirt in there, even with well greased, that means it's just going to, that dirt's going to sit in there like a grinding compound and just slowly wear things down. Pretty good. You don't have to take all these balls out so the CV actually comes apart. These just fell out on me like you saw earlier, so that's something to keep an eye on. I've never really done this before, or much I should say, and so I'm a little bit of catching me by surprise. I've mostly, especially never done this on an ATV, so you know, everything's a little different. Where'd the other one go? There it is. These circlets are kind of just like a lightweight spring clip or C-clip or snap ring, whatever you want to call them. They don't have any eyes. You just kind of push them in by hand or with a screwdriver. So that's done. Pop this a little bit more again. There you go. Figure out how those all fell out. classic thing to go out but not in, right? Okay, the grease kind of sticks those in, so if you don't got enough grease in there, use some of your grease. Push all this grease down to one end. This is the grease they just gave me. Otherwise, I'd probably just use white lithium grease or just a good quality axle grease like you'd use in any bearing. Or I'm no expert at this, but I mean, that's what I would use. I don't know why it wouldn't work. And this isn't like a bearing. It's not like a high speed or anything. It just works back and forth as your A-arms go up and down, and as it rotates, it then spin at the speed of a ball bearing or something. Put that on that side. Now, let's see if we can slide the rest of this back together. There's that. I use my screwdriver, just going to kind of push some of that grease down in there, kind of push down around the edges. All that grease should work in there pretty quick into this joint as it runs. Especially when you start running, it'll heat up. Grease will get a lot more lower viscosity and it'll work into places better. Put your circlet back in. I know I'm facing the wrong way from the camera so you can't really see, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Plus, like I said, there's a lot better. There's a, I'll see if I can remember to have my brother link in the description, the video that I found on how to do these. He pretty much does this whole process in about I don't know, 3 minutes in comparison to my however many minutes this has been. It's still not done yet. Yep, there we go. Kind of check it, make sure it's there. Now for the actual boot cover. And I do not have the boot lock. It has an actual crimp tool for these. I don't have that, so we're just going to make do with what I have, which is probably pliers or screwdriver. Make sure I get this on there all the way. That is all the way. There's actually a mark on the axle here. It's like just a bump, and it actually has a spot there where that sits. And so you can't get the bottom one wrong. And so is the top. So I kind of just pull it on and clamp that, and it should be fine. There you are. Make sure I go the right way. You also want these tails, they said, to make sure so when your axle rotates, it pushes past, less out for something to grab it and rip it off. And so that's one of the things they recommended on the video too. So, gotta make sure on that. I can't get these. I can go get a small hose clamp, because you'll see that too. They'll use hose clamps on these sometimes. On cars, at least they do. I don't know why you couldn't on an ATV. It'd probably even hold better than a stupid clip. Because this thing's kind of being a pain. It's kind of dumb they give you these, because who has the special pliers designed specially for it? I mean, come on. Sound of the Mazda pulling in. I'll beat that one I actually got. Look at that.